Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, you are welcome. If you're a returning viewer, you're a returning subscriber. Thank you for always tuning in. Today's episode is another episode of I Don't Know Enough Yet. So, if you're new here, I started this series just as a point of sharing what I'm learning in the process of life, in the process of my life, what I'm learning from my life, what I'm learning from life in general, and situations that happens around me. So yeah, it's something that I'm learning and I just want to share with you guys. It's not necessarily me educating but me sharing my opinion, and I hope it's something that you accept and maybe apply to your life or tweak it a bit to fit your own life. So yeah, let's get it right into the episode. There was a season in my life where I was working on something. I was working on something really, really, really well. I was putting in the effort. I bought the course. I studied. I implemented. I spent a whole lot of my money that time. At least little money I had at that time, I spent it into it, and I was just trying my best, putting all the efforts I could do. I could put into it, but at the end of the day, it did not work out. And then sometimes when stuff like that happens, you first of all pause. You might be in a state in a state of denial because you'll be asking yourself, then now what next? What will I do next? Yet, so it was actually very painful. What the part that was even painful was not the part that I spent time, but the part that I spent money on it, and it did not work out. When it happened, I was really confused. I was really in pain. Like it was so painful. But when I look back now, I noticed that I one big mistake I made was that I did not really ask God what his plans was for me in that particular season or regarding that particular endeavor I was going into. I committed my plans to God. Obviously, I prayed about it and I committed it to God, but I did not necessarily ask God, God, is this your will? Is this what you want me to be doing? Is it the venture you want me to go into right now? That was the mistake I made. And even though I made that mistake, I noticed that God, in His mercies, was still able to redirect me and move me away from that path into this old path. And the way I see it now is it might still be God's will, who knows, you never can really tell. But the way I see it now is that even if I didn't actually pray to God, I asked God if this was His will for me, I committed it to God, and because I committed it to God, God was still able to redirect me from that path. Even though I learned some important lessons during that process, which was painful at the time. But yeah, committing the plans I had to God, God was able to redirect me because it was not His will for me, and even if it was His will, it did not work out for me in the way I wanted. So yeah, it just buttress on the fact that all things work together for good to them that love God. So that is the first. Just keep that at the back of your mind. That is the first um lesson I learned from that season. Secondly, another thing I learned was that even though I failed in that venture, even though I did not succeed to the extent I did not succeed at all, say for my own standard, I learned some things along the way. I decided to learn from the successes I had in the midst of that failure. And you might be asking yourself, successes as how? Did you just say that if you failed now? Yes, I failed, but then I had some things within the process that I learned from, and that is still helping me up to today. So let me give you guys a real life example. If you're trying to say that successes cannot happen in the midst of the failure. Um, everybody knows the story of Joseph, but in case you don't know the story of Joseph, basically Joseph was sold into slavery. He was betrayed by his brother, sold into slavery. After he was sold into slavery, he went into Potiphar's house, and Potiphar's wife, accused him of being trying to rape her, and then they put him into prison. After prison, he stayed there for a couple of years. I don't really know how much. I don't know if the Bible mentioned it, but then after his time in the prison, that is when he came out and became the prime minister of Egypt. That's just a summary of what happened. But then, in the midst of all those things that was happening, to Joseph. There were little successes, and sometimes we can focus on the failure and magnify it. Not that we magnify it, because the failure was actually big. A lot of things that were going on in Joseph's life was really really huge. It was really really something that you'll be like, you might not really be able to go through it. But then in the midst of Joseph's life, if you look closely, there were successes in his life. First of all, after he was sold into slavery, and then he was in Potiphar's house. Potiphar raised him to be second in command in his household. So that after Potiphar, he was in second in command. So obviously, in having that kind of position, you will learn a lot of things from that position in the household, at least. Then after that, when he came into the prison, again, the prison guard made him the second in command in the prison. That is another pattern, but that is a story for another day. But the point is that the prison guard made him second in command in the prison. So after the prison guard, he was the next person that was in charge. Obviously, he learned things from that position, and it might not seem as a lot because he was still in the midst of the prison, he was still a prisoner. But then it was a success in a way that he was learning from in that particular instance. So relating this back to our lives, when we go through stuff and we feel at it, we feel at whatever endeavor that we engage in, it doesn't mean that there are not things to learn from it. Obviously, we know that we can learn from failures and all, but me, I personally decide to learn from the successes within the failure, because the successes within the failure is something that gives me a little bit of peace. I don't know, yeah, but a little bit of peace that even though I failed, I was able to get this, I was able to get that, I was able to get a little more, a little less than what I initially went for. And obviously, there are different things you will learn from that little success in the midst of the failure. So another major thing that this season taught me was that apart from the fact that I need God majorly in my life, which is very obvious, but I need both sides. And both sides that I mean is that I need both God and I also need to plan. So in my own case, I made plans, but I did not ask God if it was His opinion, if it was His will for me at that season. That is one major thing that I believe made me not succeed at that endeavor, because I did everything humanly possible. I repeated the process a lot of times, but then that is beside the point. So the thing is that I had the plan, but then I did not have a yes, I did not have a go ahead from God. So should I give you guys another real life example? Let's look at the case of Joshua. Joshua, when he was going to war with, I don't know how to pronounce it, AI, a particular city called AI. So when he was going to war with these people the second time, this is the second time, God told him that he should go ahead, that He has given him victory against those people. So me, when I was reading it, I was like, go ahead, okay, yeah, let's go. But Joshua was still able to plan, and he made a solid plan as at that. A solid plan, better than how he even planned before, and he went forward and he was able to succeed, and he was able to defeat these people, I or AI, whatever. So, but if you read that particular scripture, you will notice that the first time that Joshua and the Israelites went against AI, they lost because God was not backing them, one, and also because of sin and everything. But that is beside the point. The point I'm making is that God gave them a go ahead, and then Joshua was able to plan, because normally you feel like God gave you a go ahead, so why don't I just go and just post in and I will still succeed, which is I don't know, but it could be possible that you'll still succeed. But the point is that he both had the backing of God, and then he still planned. Look at the whole situation. The common denominator is God and man having a plan. You planning as a person. So yeah, that is the 3 lessons I learned from this season of my life, and I hope you guys can relate a little bit to learning from your successes in the midst of failure, and also committing it to God, committing whatever you are doing to God, and having a plan, getting that yes from God, getting the yes from God first, and then having a plan. But then, if you don't get the yes from God, the worst is that you fail and you learn from the failure. It's not that bad, but you'll be alright. Thank you guys for watching this particular video. I hope it was interesting in a way. Please share to anybody that you think that might benefit from it. And I'll see you in the next episode of I Don't Know Enough Yet. We keep learning every day.